When we looked at this, we looked at sort of what the different factors are that go into this. So how grand was the disruption in the eyes of the left? How many people were there? What were they saying? What were the sort of things they were trying to shout down? And then obviously, capping off the list was our friend Michael Knowles being assaulted with a super soaker earlier in the year. And I have to say, just listening to that Shapiro clip, it kind of felt like a nice little throwback to the last couple semesters worth of campus adventures, because it seems like basically everywhere we go, the left in one way or another tries to shut us down, but ultimately all these events end up being successful and students have a chance to hear conservative ideas.
Now, I know one of the things that happened a few times this past year is that sometimes private universities, which I think surprised people as well, try to shut down free speech. Do you typically face more backlash from public, or is it private universities at this point?
Well, I think it's kind of a troubling trend because in the past, it has always been the schools on the coast, so the Berkeleys, the Ivy Leagues, things like that, where there were problems getting conservative speakers on campuses. But this last year, we saw a lot of problems with private institutions, even smaller Christian institutions, who claimed that conservative ideas are somehow extreme now or divisive. And it was, I think, sad to see, and I think an eye-opener to a lot of people who kind of write off the problems with higher education as being limited to those more leftist, liberal, renowned schools and not necessarily the schools that they might have in mind for their children. And so I think if anything, it's a lesson that you need to really look into, as we're coming up on the spring and a lot of people graduate from high school, taking a really close look at what sort of a university you might be sending your kids to make sure they actually support the ideas that you want to advance and aren't just sort of paying lip service to our cause.
Now, one of the examples that was on your list, of course, is Dr. Arthur Laffer, who was booed off the stage at, I think, Binghamton in New York. He, of course, is known to the world and probably the OANN audience as the creator of the Laffer curve, which lots of economics majors, when I spoke on behalf of YF at MSU, actually, Michigan State University, a couple of economics majors there said that the Laffer curve is taught in their Economics 101 class, but apparently even Economics 101 is very offensive to leftists at college campuses today. Because the Laffer curve, of course, that illustrates the theoretical relationship between the rates of our taxation here in the United States and the resulting levels of government revenue. How long did it take he didn't even get to complete his speech, did he? How long was he even on the stage before he was booed off?
No, he didn't even really get started. I think he got out about 2 or 3 sentences before those students literally stood up on the desks and started shouting. And there was one gentleman sort of towards the front who was reading off a list of complaints or demands about the situation and claimed that, I believe he was referring to the Trump administration, I guess, was killing them. Which obviously was not the case and is quite a departure from reality or sanity to claim that Dr. Art Laffer, who's not even in the administration, he just received a Medal of Honor from the president, but is not a member of the administration, is somehow committing violent crime against members of Binghamton University. And that was a situation that to us ended up on the list because it was really telling how the university responded because they did nothing to try to keep the protesters from stopping the event. Thankfully, they were able to get Dr. Laffer out of that venue and safely off campus. But they did nothing to punish the protesters beyond a slap on the wrist. And so that's why Young America's Foundation is actually currently exploring all remedies for that situation, including litigation.